So the next thing we would like to look at is some psychological aspects now. I think this would be almost the coolest part, apart from the sleeping part, which I loved. It would be some things where you could show your expertise and give us some tips because for athletes, tilt is of course one big problem. Then to some extent, I guess anxiety, going on stage, being in front of cameras, you get some anxiety. You are frightened maybe, stage fright we wrote down. And also the concentration, it's maybe hard to concentrate with a loud crowd in front of you. So could you give us some tips, maybe 1 to 3 tips to prevent tilt, to prevent anxiety, and to improve or keep concentration? And like these tips, I guess they will also be useful for people that not only are athletes, but also people. These tips will also be applicable to everyday life, right? You think?
This is a very difficult question.
Ooh.
Just
Sorry.
because I don't think there's like the top 3 like things
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
can
sure.
just give you and then they work for everyone.
Mhm.
I think, I mean, in the past we've had players who've experienced stage fright, and so we try to like have them, for example, live stream
Yeah,
frequently, just because they get a feeling for having people watch them, and especially having people judge them for what they do, maybe and kind of flame them. I think that's a lot of um kind of stress inoculation, in a sense that if you you this is a psychological term, I'm sorry, if you know are confronted with stress in small doses, you will kind of be able to adapt to that and cope with that better, and then you learn to cope with more and more of that's anxiety and stress. And
yeah,
so when they then happen to be up on stage, they have that kind of maybe build out the ability to cope with that, and they're not as stressed anymore because they've been in this situation before. um it doesn't work all the time. I wouldn't say that's the kind of the golden way to go for everyone. Also, I think other areas are maybe, well, especially for like concentration, there's always tools. I think we use, for example, the concentration grid, which is basically just a field full of numbers. So it's just you kind of go to a browser and open that, and then you have to go from like maybe you have like a 7-on-7 grid, and then you go from 1 to 49, and you just have to press the numbers in the right order from as fast as possible. And what that does is you're so concentrated on that for however long you take, I don't know, like a minute or so. And there's golf players and there's some, I think, tennis players who use that before their games because it helps them to really focus on one thing. And if you continue to do that, and you first of all you get better and better at that, which gives you a good feeling, and second of all, it will help you kind of concentrate on one thing, and then you switch over to the game that you play. So you kind of sharpen your concentration there, and you pull back kind of into focus what you want to do. So this is a very easy thing to do. I think you can go, I don't know, concentrationgrid.com or something. I hope
yeah.
that's not a wrong site. Yeah, and tilting, I mean,
Wait, let's go with concentration first. So for concentration, just do something where you have to concentrate on, and then you will be in a concentration mode, go into something else, and you are still able to concentrate. Take the concentration from exercise 1 to exercise 2, like that, right?
there's obviously, I mean, there's also meditation that you could do, but or like breathing exercises to
Yeah.
kind of center you. Um, I mean, a lot of people struggle with that a little more. They always feel like meditation is some spiritual nonsense and they don't want to do it, but it's actually really, really good. It helps your body to calm down and to be more focused, because your brain is not running through all of the thoughts and all of kind of the senses that come in, like the crowd, for example, the noises. If that makes you nervous and you can concentrate on your breathing, you will be able to kind of focus on the breathing and not on the noises from the crowd, for example.
Okay, so concentration, you can meditate regularly or do something where you concentrate on something and then you can take that concentration onto the next task. Okay.
Also, concentrationgrid.com, and does exist, and it is what Nina just described.
Okay,
so
good.
I'm glad.
if anyone needs some focus,
It's also
just
really
go there.
cool. Like, you can do that as a team exercise as well, and then everyone is racing everyone to who's first.
Yeah.
Like, that's just fun as well.
Ooh, then it's getting competitive.
Yeah, I mean, but the game you're gonna play afterwards is gonna be competitive as well. So
Yeah.
maybe that puts you in the
Yeah,
right
but
mindset.
you might not wanna smash your teammates in that game. So, so I wondered, when you like newly meet players and then try to help them out, do you ever like struggle with them kind of believing even in your work or like in psychology in general?
So in my time in the Swiss scene, I had a lot of players tell me that they don't believe in psychology, which, first of all, I don't think you can believe or not believe in psychology. So, I mean, that's just science, and you can, believe has nothing to do with it. But obviously, I mean, as I mentioned with meditation, like, a lot of players having the buy-in for them to kind of do what you recommend them to on certain topics is harder than others. Like, everyone, or like, also, again, for example, exercise or nutrition, like, if they don't see the use or the benefit to themselves, they will not do it. They will just kind of refuse to do it, because us being knowledgeable about a topic is not enough for the players to build the kind of the trust to do it. So I think in mindset, I mean, that's tying back to your first question. There's also a reason why I am kind of spearheading mindset, because a lot of the players that we had of Mindsanity, they know me as a person and they trust me as a person. So me being the person delivering like recommendations to them often has a bigger impact than just having an expert come in and talk about it, right? Because, again, you have to buy in that they trust me. And so trust should be the foundation of everything that we do, even though the knowledge is probably the kind of the important part that we want to kind of give the players. So yes, definitely I've had this trouble, but given that, in mindset we only offer the services that we do, and players can say no, we don't want them. I think most players who don't believe in what we do don't end up working with us.
You go on, Sylvan?
I
think.
thought you wanted to
Yeah,
go on.
we will put that
But
at the end then. At the end of
oh,
this.
okay, however you want. So I'm wondering, like, with the people you work now, can you see the impact you're having yourself, or like, do you feel it in some way, or do they behave differently after a few weeks? How does that work out?
Are we talking about the pro players?
Yeah, mostly, I guess. I think it has more of an impact there because, well, as you say, you have a lot more time with them.
I guess there's area where you see a lot of improvement. I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of teams that start working with us are new teams that have come together. I mean, the Outlaws, who are our newest client, they've not been together for a long time before. I think they're, especially the Korean players, they've flown into the USA a few days probably before they start working with us. So a lot of the improvement we see can probably also just be from them bonding as a team. But then again, I think a lot, if you tell them to sleep well, and then we don't actually see how they sleep. We probably see them come in less tired, 2 weeks later. If it worked out, but again, our work takes so much time that we will be needing to give it a couple more weeks, maybe months, until we see the fruits actually, growing there.
I see. Well, I do hope that you don't watch them sleep. Actually, that would be kind of creepy.
Yeah, that would be super creepy. Yeah.
Yeah. So now with like we had about entity and like stage fright, I guess. With COVID-19, we don't really have these stage events, especially in Switzerland itself. Do you feel a difference for your work as well from COVID, or how did that change?
Absolutely. I think both the athletes and myself, there's been big change just because I think most work we all do is remotely anyway, right? Because I don't see the Minds NT athletes personally ever except for these events. So with a lot of teams, we get to do a lot of team bonding, also like bonding between the players and myself at such events when you get to actually hang out, share a meal, talk about other things than just the topic that was planned for this session. I think there's a lot of kind of bonding and connecting and trusting that happens when you meet people outside of scheduled meetings. So yes, there's a big difference for I guess all of us, and I do hope that we're back to live events as soon as possible.
So then once the live events are back, there will be anxiety, stage fright, which I asked earlier. And now what would be tips for stage fright? Because we talked about concentration, what you can do, some real cool tips, which also include team building. But for stage fright and anxiety, what would you recommend? I guess meditation would be something as well, which helps that.
Yeah. So again, the earlier point about streaming, for example, or
Yeah.
the fact that still stands. Apart from that, I think it kind of depends on where your anxiety is coming from. Whether that comes from you not performing well and you're afraid of that, or being afraid of people judging you because they're live on stage. I think a lot of athletes actually are afraid that they don't perform well, and in part that either comes from themselves judging themselves super harshly, or their teammates judging them or saying like negative things about them when they don't perform well. I think definitely, in a good team, obviously you always want to give your best because you don't want to disappoint your teammates, right? So depending on whether you're, kind of yourself, you're the source of that anxiety, or your teammates or the audience is sort of the anxiety, we would obviously do different things. But a lot of there is talking and understanding where it comes from, and then what we can do, which very often is kind of limited. And so this is a disappointing answer maybe. But I think as an outside person, especially if the anxiety is coming from within them, you cannot, I don't know, give them a magical solution for that anxiety. I think that's a work in progress with everyone, and you try to do that with building up confidence for themselves, with kind of positive self-talk. That's definitely a topic we have a lot, like that they don't start to talk badly about themselves even if things are going badly. If also the communication in a team to build, to kind of give structure to each other and build each other up, even even though you're playing badly. I think your teammates can be a big support structure for you there, and that needs to be clear to all athletes, that they can rely on each other, to build each other up and kind of catch each other when they fall.
Okay. And then for tilt, I think this will be the problem that most people face, something everyone faces, I guess. What would be some easy tips against that?
Honestly, taking a deep breath would help, maybe 5 or so. People have like kind of a window of tolerance where they're doing fine, and they have fields below that where they're just kind of depressed, and and they have a field above that where they're kind of hyper aroused, and they thoughts are spinning. They're probably very emotional, and that's in most occasions where we put tilt. And so from getting from that down to the window of tolerance where you're doing fine, mostly that's taking a deep breath, listening to calming music, having teammates tell you that it's going to be fine, things like that's very small things, but each person needs to kind of figure out what works for them. I think therefore it's very important to have especially in team sports, to have everyone know like that's triggers for that other players, and that so like in this way we can help them.
Just for themselves, if they want to help themselves, they should just breathe, maybe look into the future, right? Like, okay, it happened, and just look forward. Maybe something like that can help as well.
Yeah. I mean, in the past, it has been, very helpful for players to just focus on the task at hand and not think too much about what went wrong in the past. You're right, Sylvan. Do you remember?
Yes.
Um,
Oh god.
No, but like, I mean, honestly, I think Tilt, as many other things, like emotions, there are physical arousal states of the body, and you can cognitively reappraise them and say, like, yes, I feel that strange feeling in my gut. I do have sweaty hands, but that does not necessarily need to be a bad thing. It can also be my competitiveness, or it can be like this fight or flight kind of stage, and you decide to fight there instead of going into overdrive and panic. So there's a lot of elements, and then obviously, like, emotion regulation is a big topic for a lot of people, and tilt is a big part there, because tilt is a down spiral of emotion out of control. And so if you can do that, you will be fine. And and again, as you said, the easiest way to do that is deep, calm breathing.
So you don't fall into this spiral, but you breathe, you just stop, you don't say yourself, oh, it's so bad, and you fall and you fall. You breathe, and then you won't fall, and it should be better. Maybe you untilt and you win the cell finals or something like that. I don't know. Okay.
That's been two different things. But I remember like both things. Just looking forward at the SEL finals, and as well, like a bit later you told me about the deep breaths and things, and I still do that actually, and it really helps. Like if anyone watches this and is tilting sometimes, just do it. It helps. Like just keep your mind on the breathing. It will blow the problems away faster than you can think of them.
Great. Okay. So thank you for these tips. I guess now the next, what would you call it? The next theme topic. I guess topic would be now you yourself. So, I guess I wrote that down, but now that I think of it, it's not really about you yourself. But if someone wants to be a performance manager or a head of player development themselves, what do they have to do? Do they actually have to study psychology, or how do they start? Do they also just write to a team, or maybe they produce content where they show, oh, that guy, that girl can do that? Or how do you start? Just short.
So I think there's a ton of different ways, obviously. You don't need to study psychology. I think a lot of people that are coming from a more kind of mental cognitive side are going to be studying psychology. But you can come from nutrition or sports science. A lot of people who for example work in LEC didn't do a degree in psychology. There's, to be a performance coach, I think, needs to encompass a lot of different expertises. A great example was Fnatic had a job application, like a job offer for a performance coach, and that person needed to have degrees in literally every field, like nutrition, sleep science, psychology, and so I think that kind of shows us already that you need a lot of different fields of expertise to be a performance coach. But also performance coach encompasses a lot of fields of expertise. So what you can do, you either you study nutrition, sports science, psychology, also maybe like exercise, strength and conditioning coaches a lot. Like that's also a thing that is very useful and is often seen in esports. Or maybe you get a mental coach certificate. There's a course that's offered, and to do that, I think there's a lot of different ways to get into that field. I'm pretty sure you don't even need to study anything. You can get you can do courses, internship, and kind of get certificates in all of those areas also without going to university.
Maybe you can teach it to yourself, right? Maybe could you recommend a book or something, maybe even?
Oh,
Eh,
okay. I mean, there's hundreds of books, right? I mean, the book you recommended on sleep, Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, obviously that gives you a lot of maybe like all the knowledge you need to talk about sleep. And I mean, there's a lot of good books on on food and how food influences our brain and our cognitive performance. There's also a lot of like other hormones and things like that, and how we can influence that, and how they in turn influence us, which I think is also very important, just in general for well-being, but also for performance. There's a lot of books by great coaches from traditional sports who will also teach you a lot about team culture, team building, kind of what is important for peak performance. All of that. I mean, obviously, I think the content of everything I work with, you can teach yourself.
Yeah.
I taught myself a lot of the things I talk about, just because my psychology degree is it's very basic in a lot of areas that I don't actually need. But I would, I think, recommend for you to be working with a big team or things like that. I mean, they will be looking for a certificate or a degree somewhere place, just to make sure that the knowledge that you have and that you give to your athletes is good one and is science based and things like that.
But if you had to choose one book, maybe one from a coach, your favorite book, maybe in terms of that area.
I'm looking at my bookshelf with all the books in it, and okay, I give you two. Okay, is that
Okay.
fine?
Yeah, that's great.
Um,
Even better, I guess.
So no, I'm destroying my whole
Even
bookshelf
3.
here. No, it's just gonna be 2.
Yeah.
So the first one is this book. It's called Grit.
Yeah.
Why passion and resilience are the secret to success. Basically, this has nothing to do with sports necessarily, but just about how being persistent and following your goals, and how goal setting kind of sets you up for success, and how you can be the best at something, even though you maybe didn't have the best preposition to achieve something. This was very insightful. This is one of the first books I think on the top that I read, and it traveled with me through all of Europe, and so it looks a little hurt all over the place. But this was amazing, and the author is doing a lot of like scientific work on goal setting and how to pursue goals, which is I think the essence of what we do in esports as well, right? Because you want to win, I don't know, Swisscom Hero League title, and then how do we achieve that? So that was very insightful. And the second book, and this is one that Silvan is gonna know, is The Last Season by Phil Jackson. He is, was a legendary basketball coach, and also, I mean, the Netflix series, The Last Dance, is also amazing. So both those things, and his other books as well. But this just talks about player egos, team dynamics, how you work around that, and how you work with that, and what you can do for other people, in a very special way. Given that this was, the coach is not some, scientist or something that studied people, but he worked with players on the highest level of performance for many years, and so that was also very very insightful for me, and a lot that's just interesting to me, and I also love to give it to players. I borrowed it to I lent it to Sylvan a couple of years ago,
Yes.
and just because I think that players can learn a lot from the book as well, to kind of see all of these big names making mistakes and then kind of coping with that. So
Yeah, I think like I personally I really liked to read it, and also like self-reflect a bit, because I mean obviously I'm not Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan, but
Almost.
I mean they have really big egos, but I can still reflect their things onto me, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, thank you for
yeah,
the recommendations. I'll get them. I think. So, Silvan, I guess your turn.
Okay, so I can move on, I guess. So, as some might know, you're a pretty active voice when it comes to feminism.
Oh,
So,
okay.
in esports, I guess the topic about females in esports is always kind of around. And I want to know, what would you do to make it easier for women to join into to get into esports even?
Okay,
Because
so
I
first of
don't
all,
think it's that easy right now.
okay, so first of all, using female as a noun isn't great if we talk about feminist language, just because, female is kind of a sex that is referred to any species, and so women would have been great, but I know you
Fair
mean no
point.
harm, so no worries there. No, it's just, I mean, that's like that leads perfect into my point, because there's a lot of like tiny little things that make this scene, or like, the world, our society, I wouldn't say difficult, but like you can see that it's been shaped by men and or by people that are not women. And so I think it's a little difficult. It takes more effort to get past those things and those barriers, and see that most of them are not meant, do not mean harm, but they have just probably been kind of traditional or in place for a long time, and now changing them, for a lot of people, seems to be unnecessary effort. What I don't understand, I don't think it's a problem to change some things. In the Swiss scene specifically, and I think we've at My Insanity, and that we talk a lot about this topic, because on the one hand, My Insanity is now 50% women led, so that's actually pretty huge, I think, compared to a lot of other Swiss esports organizations. We actually have a lot of women working at My Insanity. But like all of us asking us, like, how did you make your way into this scene, and what happened to you? Like, we have very different stories. Personally, I never had a problem. I mean, obviously, like when I joined My Insanity and then I was a member of the management a year later, there was a lot of rumors, that I think men wouldn't have faced. There were like, I don't even know who isn't on the list of people that I've apparently slept with to be management in My Insanity, and I don't think that would have happened if I was a guy, right? So that's definitely just something that's kind of is thought about women in this scene. But apart from that, I was very, I mean, I don't want to say lucky, because it's kind of stupid to say it that way, but I've never had the problem with regarding my sex or my gender. Other women, they've experienced, abuse, in the sense that like people talk badly about them, and they've made cruel allegations and sent, pictures that are inappropriate, called them names that are inappropriate. And I think generally, I would say sexism is a society problem, and esports isn't, it's just part of society. So I don't think we have a bigger problem than the world does, but a lot of young people work in esports, a lot of young, men, especially, who just maybe haven't thought about how to properly say things, or, that, yeah, female, like calling a woman a female isn't, the most appropriate thing to do. Like, all of that are just thoughts that I think we collectively need to think, and maybe adapt our behavior to that. And it will be fine. It will take a little bit of time, but I see a lot of potential here. And I also try to not get mad at people for kind of being ignorant to things, because not knowing, that will always change, right? You can learn. I think this esports scene has learning to do, but they will. So yeah.
Yeah, I will. I already learned about talking about women or females, but actually in the question I wrote women, but like while talking I was
Good
just like,
one.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Anyway, I think Jamal has a good follow-up question here.
So something also us men like to have is role models. Like If you are a basketball player, you will have Michael Jordan as a role model. As a football player, you will have Ronaldo as a role model, for example. So do you try to be a role model yourself in the Swiss scene, or do you have other role models? In the Swiss scene.
So for obviously, I mean, am I trying to be a role model? I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've ever like actively tried. Okay, I want to be a role model, but if young, or not young women see me and they're like, okay, yeah, I want to do that too. I want to get into esports. That sounds fun. That you're more than welcome. I would love that if people saw me and were like, okay, yeah, I'm also getting into esports. I think, to be honest, for me, it wasn't like, I don't think I was a role model, but I brought in nearly all of my friends that all of my female friends. They now work at My Insanity. So yeah, I think just doing the best that I can for myself, but also for all the women that will come after me, because I think women before me have fought this fight against sexism and hate in general, and they've paved the way for me. So if I can do that and correct people for mistakes they make, and that's now then easier for the women coming after me, or like people in general. It doesn't even need to be women, right? I think paying attention to toxicity in general is important and will pave the way for the next generation of people in esports.
Okay, but don't forget it. You can also be a role model for men in the especially in the psychology sector. Like, some people will think now, okay, I can actually do psychology in Switzerland in an esports team. I just have to approach them. Like, don't forget that. But I guess next question from Silvan.
I mean, first of all, I would say watch out. I mean, Nina went to My Insanity, then she brought in all her friends. Next thing, she takes over My Insanity and then the world. They better stay on her good side, guys. So, so no,
I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, like, it's not that I brought in my friends just so that we have more women, working the mindset. Yeah, I realized that maybe that was a stupid thing to say. But Melissa, for example, who's been now with Mindsanity for many years as well. She watched me work for Mindsanity in a uni lecture, and she was like, "Hey, what's that?" And I was like, "Yeah, esports." And she's like, "Oh, okay, I've been playing video games all my life, and that sounds interesting." And so I brought her on. And my roommate Anya is she writes books and she's a lecturer, and so bringing her on for translating articles was also very easy. And then Kirby, who is now our Farm Simulator team manager, we just needed someone, and I know he had the talent and the interest in with gaming. So yes, and there's a lot of, at the moment, there's a lot of like my friends, there are people who were originally my friends at My Insanity, but I do kind of pride myself on choosing people for the potential and not for for their sex or their gender. So
maybe you just choose friends with a lot of talent, with a lot of potential.
I mean, I do definitely.
Yeah, see. Okay, so to move on, I wanted to know, what are like your biggest achievements for yourself? What do you think are like the best things you have already achieved
in life? Or
I would have like taken something in connection with esports.
Okay.
I mean, I probably in life maybe your studies and stuff, but I would have I would have taken to esports, yeah.
Okay. So I mean, esports, I think. I mean, I will be repeating myself, but I think building mindset was the one big thing that I'm extremely proud of. I think being innovative, moving forward, and being able to now provide our athletes with actually supporting structure that can help them, and with so much knowledge and passion. That is like one big thing I'm proud of. Obviously, another thing that I want to mention here is, I mean, I have probably my dream job, working at Adamas. I've always wanted to go work into pro esports, and I do now. So I've reached a like main life goal with 24. So that's definitely two things. And then if we talk about life, I would say just kind of surviving this past year and doing okay. I think we forget how challenging, this pandemic and all its consequences have been for just people. And so yeah, doing that was also, I need to remind myself and be mindful here to myself and my well-being that I did that, and that's something I'm proud of, because I didn't know that it was gonna end this way.
So, but now we saw, or you told us what your previous achievements are, but what do you plan on making your next achievements? What's next? Going to the LEC? Going to G2, or what's next?
The T2 fan voice
Yeah,
again.
of course.
Actually, I do think working with G2 would be both really fun, but also like a pain in the ass. I'm sorry. Can I say that? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can, of course. You can say it once again if you want. Pain in the ass.
Okay, good. Pain in the ass. No, just
Help me.
I don't know. Like, I think they're great, and obviously they're probably the greatest team to play League of Legends.
T1.
And I'm also, a big fan of some of their players. But I'm not sure if their dynamic, or what I see of their dynamic in like all of the kind of, they have like a chaotic vibe, and I'm not
Yeah.
sure that they would be responding very well to the coaching I can offer. I think that would just be a lot of fun and not a lot of learning. So that was not actually on my list of things I wanted to do. One big thing is, as soon as we get through this pandemic, I want to travel for work, with work, but also probably without. Especially like in Europe, I'm not a big world traveler necessarily. I don't like to fly. But getting on a bus and driving for 14 hours, I don't know. It's so uncomfortable when you do it, but I miss it terribly. I don't know. Also, going to tournaments. I remember last year we went to Leipzig with our Rainbow team, and it was the greatest time ever. So that's definitely something I want to do again. The big next achievement, though, if we talk about that, is going to be finishing my master's degree, and then hopefully working full time in esports and earning money. That I think being able to sustain myself would be a big achievement.
Yeah, we wish you good luck with that. I just realized one of the questions went completely under. I have no idea how, but something I wanted to ask you, right? You are not only a specialist for League of Legends, right? You can help players in every game, right? Or do you think the fact that you play League of Legends makes it easier for you to help League of Legends players instead of maybe CS:GO players or whatever?
Definitely. I think, the essence of what I do can be applied to every game. But playing League of Legends and understanding what is important in League of Legends definitely helps me. I just made this experience with having to work on something for Overwatch, and I've played like 3 games of Overwatch. I've never watched Overwatch, and so even like when you try to give examples, right? You try to make your knowledge kind of relatable. So you say, imagine you're in that situation, and then the things aren't called champions, they're called heroes. And if you then say, like, imagine you have a champion, and they're not gonna rely to that, so, or like relate to that. So I had to do a lot of Googling work to like see how all of the heroes are called, how many players are there. Like, there's 6 players, like, what is this? And so there goes a lot of like basic understanding for the game, so you can make your knowledge relatable to the players.
Okay. Silvan, do you have anything else before the last
Not
really
really.
cool question?
I think you can move on.
Okay,
I think we also used a lot of time already, so
yeah, for sure. So
it's just too interesting.
So one question. We said at the start, this episode will be good for everyone. So what would be one general life improving tip you could give to everyone, not just athletes, but it's better if it's in a psychology way, the tip. So what could you tell us?
Okay, actually, I made a tweet about this topic recently.
Oh,
I'm gonna
really?
plug my Twitter here now.
It's
I'm
already
sorry.
plugged, I think.
Yeah, it is. It is.
No, yeah, I need to farm impressions. I'm sorry. No, back to your questions. I think 3 things that I've personally changed during this pandemic, and I think that have improved my life a lot, were going outside for at least 20 minutes a day. Listen to, I call it a TED Talk, but it can be anything that gives you new knowledge that you're interested in. I know I love TED Talks. I learn something new every day, but it can also basically be anything else. I recently watched a 4-hour documentation on polo, which I highly enjoyed. It's a sport where you ride ponies and you play hockey.
Okay.
And I love that. Like, it didn't teach me anything new on the fields
Yeah.
that I'm looking for, but like that was amazing, and that's enriched my day. And then the third thing I do is always starting my day with a cup of tea and a good book. For me, that's it's fantasy. It's just something that I enjoy, and that gives me a good vibe for the rest of the day. So those are the 3 things I do every day that I think have improved the quality of my life.
Okay, great. We will try to adapt these. Adapt? Yeah, I think that's the word. So thank you for that. I guess, yeah. Silvan, I think last time I cut you off when you wanted to do that. So now you can do it, I guess.
Well, first of all, we want to thank you for being here, for agreeing to join our little show, I guess.
Little.
It starts off little, You
Yeah,
always
for
start
sure,
off
yeah.
little, but I mean, we're already pretty big. I mean, we got Nina here, so
Yeah.
I mean, she's a pro, basically.
Longest episode at least.
Is there anything you want to say, like for yourself? Do you want to thank anyone or want to greet somebody? That's your chance.
Of course, I want to greet all of my fans. No, I'm sorry. I should have. I knew that this was coming, but I should have prepared something. No, I just want to say thank you guys for doing this talk show and for inviting me. I think it's great to see content in Switzerland and talking about topics, and I'm always happy to talk about things I'm passionate about. So thank you guys so much. Yeah, to the other people, I don't know. Enjoy life. Make sure you don't put too much pressure on yourself with your life and also esports, and do whatever feels right to you, and stay healthy, and both body and mind.
It's sounding like a real pro there.
Also go to horse.de
Oh.
and join my breeding team. Thank you. Also follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, as you can see, her Twitter is plugged here.
Perfect.
So as always, we have this last question. Are there any guests you would recommend us to have in the future?
I mean, anyone from my insanity. No. Okay, see, now that I should have prepared. I think it depends on what topics you want to talk about. I would definitely, I mean, Melissa would be a great guest if you want to talk about more kind of behind the scenes work in esports. I think that's obviously, Jamal is doing similar work for Lostic, right? But I think that could be a really cool insight for a lot of people, especially like smaller orgs as well, to see what like big orgs have to do every day to keep it running.
You don't have to force it.
Can you cut this, please, while I think?
Too much cutting work. I can't do that.
No. Okay. Then I need to come up with someone quick. No, I mean, it depends on how big you want to go. But if you can, having, for example, Maniac on would be cool as well. I wasn't gonna go too big. But like that would be really cool, I think. And I think he would love to share a lot of his experiences as well. So those are the 2 things, the 2 people I'm gonna mention.
Okay.
Thanks for the suggestions.
You can.
No,
you can move on, Mr. Jamal.
No, you do the end.
I do the end.
Yeah,
okay,
you can do the end this time.
Well, first time, don't mess it up. I'm under pressure. Nina, can you help me out here?
Let's go.
You can't be worse than I was at the start today, so.
Yeah,
You can do
fair.
it, Simon.
So,
I
well,
believe in you.
everybody at home, thank you for watching. We appreciate it a lot. I hope you still continue to watch us, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, you can leave a comment if you liked it, what was good, what was bad. We always appreciate feedback, and hopefully we will see each other next time.
Yeah, till next time. Thanks for watching.